My name is Chisom Uma, and I'm a technical writer and a documentation engineer. And I've, been in the space for over 3 years, 4 years. And yeah, I'm really excited to be giving this talk today. And this talk is I feel like is a very important talk because as a technical writer myself, one question I've always gotten is how can I get into technical writing and documentation engineering? How can I build experience? How can I build a portfolio? How can I, be able to showcase myself as a documentation engineer to like recruiters? And I've gotten these questions quite a lot, and I always tell people that are trying to get into documentation that your best bet is open source, right? Because as a technical writer, if you're working in an organization, your role is going to be proactive, very proactive. You have to learn how to collaborate with other, with a cross-functional team. You have to learn how to collaborate with other team members, and that's a privilege that open source gives to you. With open source, you learn how to collaborate, you learn how to get involved with other people, and it's also it's like a public place, so you could build and you could contribute, and it's easy to showcase your work to other people. It's easy to build experience. You can always say, oh well, I contributed to this open source project. I like rewrote the entire documentation, and here it is my sample, and it worked for me. That's why I want to talk. It worked for me. My open source contribution at Nginx was one of the reasons. Hello? Okay. Yeah, my open source contribution at Nginx was one of the reasons I was able to land a job as a technical writer. And I feel like it's important for anyone looking to transition into my field as a technical writer or into the field of technical writing in general, documentation. I feel like it's important for you to know or learn about how to contribute to open source. How can you find your first project to contribute to? So let me so let's get to the slides and uh, so the title of my topic is First Time Contributors Guide, How to Get into Open Source Documentation. And at the end of this space, so you're going to learn what open source is, why it matters in your career as a tech writer, and tips to get started, and the tools and processes that you need to get into open source documentation. So I'll start with what open source is. Um, I don't know how many of you have contributed to open source, one way or the other. No, okay, okay, that's good. Yeah, so just in case you don't know what open source is, let me just have just like a brief introduction or a brief description of what open source is. So according to opensource.com, the term open source refers to something people can modify and share because its design is publicly accessible. Like I said, it's public. It could be like a code repo. It could be anything really. Like it's public. You can always go and contribute. You can always get involved. And I always like to say this to people trying to get into open source: see open source as a mindset, not a definition that you could just see it as a just have this mindset that you want to help people, you want to volunteer, see it as a way to help, because remember you're contributing to an impact, right? Whenever you rewrite documentation in open source, you're contributing to something. You're helping people with clarity. I mean, you could go to somebody's documentation and see that, for example, the documentation isn't properly structured, and it's difficult to find information that's needed, because one of the main purpose of documentation is to help people find what they need really quickly. For example, they want to solve a problem, and so you could, as a technical writer, into like a project, see, oh well, that this isn't properly structured, this isn't well explained, and you could contribute by rewriting or restructuring or improving what you see. Okay, so you should always have that mindset that you're contributing to an impact. Imagine you have rewritten a documentation to improve the user experience. Like, it comes to the side and see what you have done. You have impacted somebody in a way, or someone or people in a certain way. So you should always have that mindset when contributing to open source, right? So why is it contributing to open source document? Why does it matter to you? as a technical, as someone trying to get into the field or as someone trying to build experience. Why is this important? It's to help you to build real world experience. You will learn how to collaborate with people, with other team members, because honestly, that's like the biggest, one of the biggest thing for you to be able to grow as a technical writer, to become technical. You have to learn how to collaborate, and open source offers you this opportunity to collaborate. Then next, you learn how to collaborate in a cross-functional team. As I've said, most projects lack quality docs. Your contributions are needed. If you go around, look around some documentation, you see that it lacks quality documentation. And sorry, I have 5 minutes more. So let me try to run. Yeah, you see that they lack quality documentation, and you can always contribute and improve it. There's an opportunity for real impact. You can improve user experience and developer experience. Is portfolio building, network, skill development. You learn. The more you contribute, the more you learn. So the types of documentation you can contribute to, we have README files. You can contribute to API documentation, tutorials and guides, contributing guides, and code comments. So making your first contribution. Next, we'll look at how to make your first contribution and the tips and some of the learning opportunities you might encounter when contributing to open source. And so for one of them, you can look for projects to contribute to whose product or services you already use or you're familiar with. And so yeah, that's one of the advices you get most times. To look for projects that you are familiar with using or you already know about the product you can contribute to. But this must not always be the case, right? You can contribute to anything, any or like product or any industry you're interested in. For example, if you're interested in the AI space, one great tool to contribute to open source is GitHub. You can log into your GitHub account. You can type in AI into the search bar at the top of the page. You can then navigate through when you search AI, for example, you see a list of like companies or products in GitHub, and you can go through them. And once you see this contributing.md, right? The contributing.md is like a file that gives you steps or instructions on how to contribute to open source, right? You can go through this file. In many cases, they will show you how to like get started with their documentation, how to like host it locally so you could preview your changes, and then you can always like contribute. Once you see this contributing MD, you have all these steps to contribute. They'll show you how to open a PRO, how to install the project. As a first-time contributor, you can start with small suggestions. As a technical writer, you can start with fixing small typos, making sentences clear, and then as you grow, you can contribute to larger projects and efforts, right, as a technical writer. And then next, you get to learn about the docs as code approach, as in most cases, you have to work with a version control, GitHub, Markdown, and an IDE like VS Code or Cursor. And docs as code is, as a technical writer, is one term that you will come across. And the docs as code approach, the thing with this is that you might not know that you're already doing it, and then they can ask you in an interview, so what is a docs as code approach? You might get confused because you don't already know that you're already using Markdown, you're already writing Markdown, but you don't know. So getting into open source will help you to understand the process of docs as code and how it works in practical. So you should always try to avoid inactive projects and hostile communities. Make sure you check and see that this is a project that is welcoming. Some open source projects are so welcoming, to contributors. And then you can include these merged contributions to your resume. You can always, like, if once your PRO has been merged, for example, you could include it. I did that, so I included that in my resume, and that can actually help you build experience and stand out as a technical writer, right? So these are the tools for open source contribution. You should have a version control like GitHub, and you can learn about pull requests, and then Markdown. Of course, as a documentation engineer, you're going to be writing, or as a technical writer, you're going to be writing in Markdown. And then you need an IDE like Cursor and VS Code, for example. So where can you start as a technical writer to get into open source? I always reference the Good Docs project. Is a very welcoming community of technical writers. If you want to get into open source, this is the best place because you have other technical writers there that have already been contributing to open source. They can help you get started. They can, you get to contribute to a lot of like documentation projects and build real experience. Okay. Yeah, you can. And also, even if you're a experienced technical writer, you can still learn more, build more skills when you join the Good Docs project. So I will be sharing the link to my slide, and you can click on that link and you can go to the Good Docs project and start contributing. Thank you so much. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Chisom Uma, on Twitter, Uma Chisom. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my talk.